Good morning, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well and staying safe these times. First, I'd like to thank the Duke Mayo Bowl and Charlotte Sports Foundation for a great week. This has been a good place for us to come. The guys have had a blast. They had, with all the COVID issues around and concerns, they've still been able to, unlike last year at the Orange Bowl, where they didn't get to go to any functions, they've been able to get out mostly outside or separated because we pretty much stayed in a bubble. But they went to a player tailgate where they had a lot of fun early in the week. The race car experience was unbelievable for them. I didn't get in. They were driving 165 miles an hour or something, and the guys just had a blast as they were riding around the racetrack. The Hornets game was fun for them. Then they had a big shopping spree at Belts last night. So Military Bowl, they had a lot of fun. Last year, it was the game. We went down on a Thursday night and were there Friday and played Saturday, and there were really no functions. So it was more difficult to enjoy the bowl experience, and that's what you want for these guys. But this week, because of the Duke's Mayo Bowl and the Charlotte Sports Foundation, these guys have really had a good time. And now it's time to get ready to play. We've had good practices. Guys have worked hard. We've stayed healthy. So we're in good shape going into the ball game. They had the best practice yesterday. They were excited, and you can tell they want to play. And that as it's been the last 2 years, it's been really, really difficult to look at everything going on across the country and see if you're going to play or not. So every day, guys are asking, Coach, you think we're going to play? I've said, stay safe. If you don't get sick, we'll play. And that's just part of it. So let's do our part. Providence Day School, the hospitality with Coach Greer was unbelievable. They have tremendous facilities, and our guys have been able to work out there every day, and it's not far from the hotel. So it was easy. Yesterday we had a special treat. Mayor Harvey Gantt came out and talked to our team, and he's such an icon in this state to be the first Black person to enter Clemson University. What an experience that must have been back in the 60s, and to talk to our guys about that, and to be the first Black mayor of Charlotte. He's a special man. He's Corey Holliday's father-in-law. Corey's son, obviously Christopher's on our team, and that's Mr. Gantt's grandson. But he really talked to the guys about special stuff and about social justice from the 60s till now, and what he feels like is going on now, and really that he's proud of these young guys moving forward, and that the youth are our chance to have a better world as they grow. So it was a special time. As far as COVID is concerned, our guys have done a tremendous job. Now this stuff spreads so fast, and we've all watched concerns each day about who's going to play and who's not going to play. But as of right now, we're in great shape. Could we get up in the morning and have some sick guys? I'm sure. I mean, that's just the way this stuff's spreading. But our guys have done a tremendous job for the 2 years of COVID of making sure that they stay in their bubble, they handle things right, they wear their mask because they want to play. So I'm really, really proud of them. You go back and look at what's happening in our world, in the bowl world, even in the season some. The way I understand it, we don't have a lot of regulations if somebody pulls out and who pays for it. And I'm sure there'll be some tough conversations coming up going forward. But I do think in college sports in general, but especially college football, we need to have guidelines. If you do pull out, does that mean you lose the game? And it's a medical decision for us. So I'm sure it would be a medical decision at other people. But who pays for it? If Memphis is in Hawaii for a week and they can't play the game, where does that money come from? What happens to sponsors? what happens to the fans? So it seems like we're in a world where we're going to continue to see some COVID issues. So we're going to have to look at guidelines like we do with everything else to make sure that we handle these moving forward. South Carolina, I think it's an even game. You look at 6-6 and 6-6. They beat Florida and Auburn, which are both good football teams. The most impressive thing for them has been they're 13th in the country in turnover ratio. Their secondary has intercepted 10 balls. So they've been ball hawks, and they play great defense. They're really physical. So it should be a great game, and I'm excited about it. As I said earlier, it's really fun to see Shane doing such a great job at South Carolina, to watch him grow up and be dear friends with his dad. Coached against his dad and going into the Hall of Fame with his dad. It was fun to see Shane last night. We had a little gathering where the two staffs got together, and a lot of the people on the staffs know each other. So it'll be a great game, and we won't like each other much for that 3.5 hours tomorrow, but there's a lot of friendships between the two staffs. We do have 7 guys in all-star games right now that our fans would be excited about. In the Under Armour All-Star game on January the 2nd at 2 p.m. Eastern on ESPN, you've got Doc Chapman, who will not play because he had a lower body injury earlier in the season, but he's chosen for the game and he's there. You've got Andre Green, you've got George Pettaway, you've got Zach Rice, and you've got Travis Shaw. And George Pettaway, Zach Rice, and Travis Shaw will be in school in a few weeks for spring practice. In the All-American Bowl game on January 8th at 12 p.m. on NBC Eastern, you've got Sebastian Cheeks, who will also be in Chapel Hill in January, and you've got Omarion Hampton, who will not be. Questions?
All right, thanks, Coach. We will begin with JB Ricks.
Morning, Coach. Appreciate you taking out this time.
Good morning, JB.
I'm sure you know what took place with NC State in their bowl game yesterday, and it looks like there was a lack of transparency that took place on UCLA's end leading up to the decision to cancel that game. I was wondering if you could share with us what the communication has been like between North Carolina and South Carolina leading up to tomorrow's game, and has it changed at all considering what happened with North Carolina State yesterday and them just coming out of nowhere and saying, we've got to cancel the game on the day of?
Yeah, JB, the way I understand it, there's not any communication. If there would be, it would be between doctors. I mean, I don't know anything about South Carolina's medical situation. Haven't asked, haven't been told, haven't heard. But I think that's probably a medical question. It's a good question, but the biggest thing would be, if the doctors get so there's a concern about the game, do they talk? Do they talk back and forth? Because it's interesting. Mississippi State played last night without 16 players. So medically, I feel like what I've been told is, if we had some positives and maybe some injuries on top of positives, or maybe some opt-outs and injuries and positives, then the medical staff would tell us, we don't feel like it's safe for your kids to play because you don't have enough guys at a certain position. Or if you lost 3 quarterbacks and didn't have a quarterback who's played any, they might think it's not fair to play the game for the other kids. I don't know. It's there again, we talked about, if you have 50 players like the NFL and you have 7 offensive linemen and 2 quarterbacks, should you still play regardless of who they are? But none of that ever came to fruition. So there are no real rules. I hate it for all of the fans and the coaches, but I really hate it for the kids. When they've worked that hard, they've been working through their vacation time, their holiday season, and then you don't get to play the game and they go home. Some of them that asked me yesterday, what happens if we don't play? And I said, we've had good practice sessions, you've had a good bowl experience, and we go home. I mean, that's just the way it is. But I've told our team, all we can control is us. So let's don't be the reason we didn't play. and so far they've done a good job with that. But as far as I know, JB, anybody could get a call before you get to the stadium on that game day, like last year, and they just say, we've tried, but it's not going to work, and then you just don't play. And that's the world we're living in. That's why I said earlier, I really think we need to have better guidelines. But who's responsible? We need to take care of the sponsors. We need to take care of the bowls. Are we going to lose our bowls if we keep having teams that can't play and they're sitting there and they've spent all that money and all that time, and then they get no money from the fans or from TV? It's not fair to TV. I lived that world for 5 years, and you've got a game to broadcast, and 3 hours before the game they tell you no game. What do you fill that spot with? So I really think that none of us expects to be here for 2 years, and now that it might be a third year. So if it is, we need to put better guidelines in place for all of us, so we all understand.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you, JB.
CL Brown.
Hey, Mac, I was curious, when is the last test? When are you guys clear? Do you test day of, or was that something that was last?
No, each conference has guidelines that you have to go by, and they're different, which is interesting. And then weirdly enough, CL, a lot of it then goes by the protocol of your health department, and that's your local county health department. So we are under the guidelines of the Orange County Health Department, not Mecklenburg. So our guys are through being tested, and right now we're in good shape moving forward.
And just as a follow to what you meant to JB's question too, so in terms of communication between yourself and Bubba, I mean, are you allowing yourself to have a conversation like, what would our options be if this doesn't take place? Or is that something you're just focused on South Carolina and Bubba's taking care of whatever future mess may happen because of COVID?
Yeah, see, my personality is I've got to lock into what I'm doing. I've got to coach the game. I've got to feel like we're playing. And if not, if I'm all over the place, the kids are going to feel that with me, because I'm very direct with them. And I usually feel like it's so unusual that Central Michigan's going to be able to play Washington State. I mean, and they were in the same area of the country. But I would feel like if we didn't play our game, we're probably headed home. It's late. So I'm planning on coaching the game and playing the game. And as I said, I was with Coach Beamer last night, and he felt the same way. I mean, I thought they were confident. You're with the opposing coaches 2 nights before the game. You don't want to say, "How's it going? How's practice? Anybody hurt? How's COVID? You okay with COVID? You guys excited about the game?" I mean, it's kind of an awkward time to be together, but so you don't talk about much, but you talk about his dad and friendships and all the other. But I did not feel that there was any worry in their minds, as there was not in ours, that we were going to play. And I didn't ask him, but I don't think we would have had that gathering if there was that concern. Thank you.
Patrick Welter, go ahead.
Hey, Coach, I just wanted to clarify, make sure I heard you right, that you said your guys are finished with tests, so no more tests between now and the game?
Yes.
Okay, and then could you give us an idea or a number of how many guys have tested positive and will miss the game?
Patrick, the doctors have discouraged us from talking about it publicly, but I can tell you it is very minimal to none. I will say that.
Christopher Heidel, go ahead.
Hey, Coach Brown, how you doing? Happy holidays.
Thank you, Christopher. Same to everybody.
Question for you. I know we've been seeing this whole thing going on in the NFL with players going down with COVID-19, and do you feel like the college football need to expand their roster for bowl games just to make sure you have enough players, or can they do that, or what can they do to make this thing, though you don't have like you said, Mississippi had 16 players out last night with COVID-19. What can they do to make sure these games get played?
Christopher, it's a good question. I said they're trying to get a 5-day quarantine instead of 10, which would really help if you have no symptoms. And I guess, I don't know if they retest you or not. And the way I understand it, that has not been decided everywhere yet. So, but that's something they're looking at, is as the virus continues to grow, do we change the guidelines, protocols from what we had when it started? So we kind of upgrade. Secondly, we've all mentioned, and this is something that's in place, I believe, you all could check, or Jeremy could check, that if you have opt-outs from your bowl game, or if you have COVID with a certain number of players, you could allow a freshman who's already played in 4 games to play in a 5th game as a replacement player and not cost him his year of eligibility.
Oh, okay, cool. I didn't know that.
So check that, but you have to appeal,
Mhm.
the way I understand it. And I'm not sure it passed, but I think it did. It's not going to be an issue for us because we're not in that position. But last year, it could possibly have been something that we would have looked at. But I do think that's one thing that would help, is let's give these guys a chance to play one more game without it costing them their year, if you've played them in 4.
Exactly. And a follow-up question real quick for you. Shane Beamer, you coach against his father a lot. What did you see in him and Shane? Does he look like his father? With all the different, I know his father did really well at Virginia Tech, and you guys had battles over the years and all that stuff. What does he look like on the side? Does he look like a little more like his father? Like know all the ins and outs?
Well, he does, and he's done a tremendous job in coaching on his own, but he's also got a 70-something-year-old consultant who's in the Hall of Fame that he trusts, that can tell him, I like this, don't do that, son. I did that in 1984 and it didn't work. And so he's got a tremendous helper there guiding him. But their expectations as a program were very low going into the season, and he's exceeded them. Like I said, they beat Florida, they beat Auburn. They won some close games. They've played really hard each week. They're very well coached. And he's already got some grad transfers in for next year that will help tremendously. So I think he's doing a great job. I told him that last night. I'm really proud for he and his family that he taken what was a very difficult situation and turned it into a real positive going into bowl season and recruiting.
Well, I hope you guys stay safe, and good luck tomorrow.
Thank you, Christopher.
Adam Smith, go ahead.
Hey, Mac. It's a abstract question, I guess, but I was wondering if you'd ever put a finger on what the personality of this team is. I can remember you saying last year's team was like a quieter bunch, maybe. But it seemed like you had a pretty good sense of who they were. Did you ever come close to figuring that out? Are they anyway still a mystery here 24 hours before the last game? What are your thoughts on that?
Adam, I think they're still a mystery. That they're a team that got better at the end of the year than they were at the beginning. They're a team that had entirely too high expectations before the season started. We all knew that. I was talking to somebody the other day, and they said, you said it every time you had a press conference and nobody listened. Well, nobody wants to listen. And it's good for recruiting. It's good for selling tickets. It's just when the facts get out there and you're not as good, it's tough. It's tough for everybody. So what I've done is change the narrative with them. Instead of everybody talking about how disappointing their year's been, I've told them, you win tomorrow. It's a 3rd straight winning season, only for the 2nd time since 1997. You'll win. You seniors will have won your 2 of your 3 bowl games. You didn't go to a bowl game your first 2 years. So I've tried to take it and turn it into a positive for them, because it's probably it's more realistic that was our expectation to continue after we lost those great players to grow and build, rather than be the 8th best team in the country when we hadn't done anything to prove that except play the 5th team in the country close in the Orange Bowl. And then when you lose that many great players, and not only that many great players, there's some really good leaders in that group. Michael Carter is one of the best leaders I've ever seen. So I think, Adam, what we need to do Saturday is our leaders have to step up. We got to play harder for each other. I think we got a little over the top. You think about what's happened with college football players this year. We added NIL, which is crazy because it takes away amateurism. So every college football player in the country started thinking about, how can I make money? What does this mean? What are the rules? And we didn't know, but that's a change. And then does that disrupt your locker room some? He's getting more than me. What are you getting? And then the second part of that is the transfer portal. I'm not starting. I want to be an NFL player. So at midseason, we've lost to Virginia Tech and Georgia Tech, who people thought we would beat. Season's not going real well. I'm not playing as much as I thought I would. So maybe I just start looking around. So we're really having to work harder as coaches to get back to, why do you play? It's about your team. Play the best you can. Quit talking about the NFL. If you're good enough, it'll work itself out. But if your team's winning, you're playing great, you got a better chance with NIL. It's about your ball, not your brand. And you've got a better chance with the NFL. So I really think a lot of college football teams this year are dealing with things that we've never dealt with before.
Thank you, Mack.
Thank you, Adam.
All right, Andrew Jones, go ahead.
Coaches, what has kind of jumped out at you the last few weeks about your team that maybe you didn't see in the regular season, that gives you the understanding that everything continues in their room to move in the right direction?
Andrew, I thought since probably Florida State, we've played really, really hard. I didn't like the way our defense played that day after their quarterback had the 60-yard run. It seemed like we just got discouraged, and we didn't play with the same energy in the second half of that game. Every other game we've played really hard, and if we end up beating Pitt late, which we absolutely had a great chance to do, if we end up beating State late, we're an 8-win team looking for 9 wins tomorrow, and we're not even having these discussions. So the progress is that we beat Wake, who was a top 10 team. We had our great chance on the road to beat Pitt, who won the ACC. And with State, we were down to a minute 57 and didn't finish. And they won 9 games. So when you look at just those three, Notre Dame, we're in a fourth quarter game with them on the road. So we didn't win the games on the road, but we're there. So what I told the players, all I've ever asked you is, give me all you got. Give me all you got. So I added something to that. I said, give me all you got and find a way to win. Find a way to win close games in the end. And that's what we got to do. But other than that, we're there. They're playing hard. They're in great position. We gotta make the plays to finish the games.
When we talked to Ty Chandler back, I think it was August, he said one of the reasons he chose Carolina was because he saw what Michael and Javonte did, and he wanted some of that as well. He wanted to improve and better his prospects for the NFL. What have you seen from him in his game? Maybe one or two things that has clearly improved, that has enhanced his opportunity to get to the next level?
One thing I didn't anticipate is that even in spring, I don't think he had a great feel of the offense. And early, it seemed like it wasn't fitting because it was so different than what he had been in over his time at Tennessee. And then I think parts of Georgia State, but Virginia's when he found it. And I thought the biggest difference, Andrew, was his confidence. Probably the offensive line's confidence in him, Sam's confidence in him, but his confidence in them and the offense. And the offense led the league in rushing and has another 1,000-yard rusher. So if you're a back and you catch the ball out of the backfield and you can gain 1,000 yards in this offense every year, that's pretty good stuff.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we got time for 2 more questions. First up is Ben Briner.
Hey, Coach Brown, I kind of wanted to ask, when you kind of flip on the film, what sort of stands out about what South Carolina does schematically, both on offense and defense?
The thing they've done, Ben, on defense is that they're multiple, but they're really aggressive. Those secondary guys can play and they can catch. So they're a very difficult defense and they play hard. You got to give them credit for playing so hard. Offensively, they're going to line up and try to mash you. They've had the issues at quarterback where they've played 2 or 3 different guys, but their backs are good. They're physical. Their offensive line's big and physical, and they are going to line up and just try to gnaw you, hit you in the mouth, keep the ball and be really, really physical, and then use play action off of it. And I think that's what we're seeing. And plus, they've done a really good job. Coach Limbo's done a really good job with their special teams. They've had fakes and they've done a lot of good things to keep their kids excited and make them play with confidence and give themselves a chance to win. They had a chance to beat Missouri on the road. So I'm really impressed with what they've done.
Okay, last question, Daniel Way, go ahead.
Hey, Coach, how you doing? I understand that some of your players tomorrow might be playing their last game in Tar uniform, like including Jeremiah, maybe Sam. I was just wondering, is there anything in particular you told those players in preparation for tomorrow's game?
Daniel, it's a great question. Sally and I always meet with the seniors the day before the last game. So what we will meet with them this afternoon and base right before dinner and basically say thank you. Transitions are hard. We're seeing it all across the country. And these guys, Coach Fedora did a tremendous job here. And he stayed 7 years, and the last couple obviously weren't as good. But the kids were struggling and they wanted to win, and they could have all transferred. And they trusted us and they hung in there. And then we brought in some recruits, and the recruits played more than the older ones, and they handled that. So basically what I'm going to tell them is just thank you for doing what you're doing academically and getting your degree. Thank you for trying to help us build this program when we didn't recruit you. We started out as a family of all over the place trying to pull things together. And I will say, because of these seniors, Daniel, this afternoon, that our program is in much better place today than it was 3 years ago because of you, because you stayed. And I'll also tell them, thank you for not opting out. That's a great sign this year. Some could have, and a lot of them could have and not played in this game. And even with COVID, they could have said, you know, Coach, I don't even know if we're going to play. I'm not going to stay out here and practice for 14 days if I don't even know if we're going to play. So that'll be the message. It's basically just thank you for what you've done. Thank you for believing in us. Thank you for fighting for this program. And thank you for leaving it in a better place than it was when we got here.
Well, Coach, thank you so much for some time today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you all. You all be safe, and we'll see you tomorrow.